Hi, this is Grandma Laurie. Today's story is Sneaky Pete. What is that? Sneaky Pete was fixing dinner when he heard something in the backyard. It sounded like Mom was hammering something, so he didn't pay much attention. He was more focused on the acorn soup he was making. "Reggie is gonna love this," said Pete. Reggie was Pete's little brother who lived with him. He tasted the soup. "Oh my," said Pete. "This is gonna be so good. It just needs a few more bird seeds." Pete went over to the cabinet where he stored the bird seeds. He pulled out the container of birdseed only to find it empty. "Rats!" said a disappointed Pete. "I guess I'll need to go downstairs and gather more." Pete turned off the stove and put the cover on the soup pot. He didn't want to risk a fire. The day was warm and breezy. Pete took a deep breath as he stepped out of his house. "It's gonna be a great spring," he said to himself. As he scampered down the tree, he noticed something. What was that? Mom had switched out the main bird feeder with one that didn't have a ledge for Pete to stand on. Plus, it had lots of little holes just big enough for a sparrow, but too small for a squirrel. "Well, that's different," said Sneaky Pete. "I guess I'll have to figure out how to get into that." Sneaky Pete stood on the fence looking at the bird feeder. He really couldn't climb to the top of the feeder. There wasn't enough room for him to hold on. "Well, I guess I'm going to have to jump onto it and shake the seed out," he said. Pete stood on the pole closest to the bird feeder and tried to figure out the best angle at which to jump. "Okay, that'll do," Pete said. He stood straight up on the pole and jumped. And missed. Once his head cleared, Pete said, "Well, that didn't work. I'll need a different angle." Sneaky Pete looked around and found a tall bush. Maybe that would give him the best way to jump onto the bird feeder. He jumped inside the bush, judged the distance he would need to fly, and jumped. And missed again. "Well, this is silly," Pete said. He picked himself up and went back to the bush to try again. This went on for a while, with Pete trying different ways to jump toward the feeder and missing each time. Mom had positioned the new feeder just far enough from anything Pete could use as a jumping point, so he couldn't reach it. He was going to have to come up with a plan. When Reggie returned home, he found acorn soup on the stove with the heat turned off. He tasted a spoonful and one of the soft acorns. "Pete! Pete! Is this acorn soup ready to eat?" Reggie yelled. When he didn't get a response, Reggie walked into the living room, only to find Sneaky Pete lying on the couch, an ice pack on his forehead. "Pete," said Reggie, "I tasted the soup. It tastes great, but it could use more birdseed." Pete opened his eyes and just looked at Reggie. "Well, let me tell you about the birdseed," said Pete. This has been Grandma Laurie. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. You're awesome. Thank you.